Hi, Mark Anthony here with another episode of The Whole Message, and today we have got some really fun information for you. We're actually going to be spending more time in the kitchen and in the radio studio where we do radio recording. And I love to really do the homework. I love just picking out everything so we can see the whole picture. Too many times what we're dealing with in society is a fragmentized society. And you got to get this, because as long as you hear something enough times, you're going to start believing it. This is called fragmentation, and it's something we really need to be aware of and understand that this fragmentation is very dangerous. I mean, one thing I like to really put out there and tell people, my own personal quote, the better the lie is presented, the more absurd the truth is going to sound. Yeah, and see, that's what's happening out there. People put these lies out there, especially when it comes to food things, and it's so crazy out there, the misguided information that's out there that has no truth to it whatsoever. And that's what we do. We are going to bust all these myths that are out there and show you the truth, show you the whole message. And so that's what I love to do. Yeah, great program today. Enjoy these clips, and we will see you later on. Hi, Mark Anthony here with Melody Prettyman again, and let me tell you, she has got a cheese recipe that I have never done before. And what exactly are you doing with rice?
Well, I'm eliminating fat. And I was really looking for a cheese sauce recipe, which my old one was really great, but it had cashews or it had almonds, so the nuts are fattening. And a lot of people don't realize that when you are trying to lose weight, you're trying to eliminate fat, cholesterol, that especially for somebody who's overweight, maybe have an eating problem, nuts are a trigger food. So I wanted to come up with a recipe because I love cheese sauce that didn't have the fat in there. So I designed it with cooked brown rice and a potato.
Oh, wow. Now I do the cheesy sauce with potatoes and carrots, but I've never done one with potatoes and rice. So this will be a whole new experience for me.
So we've got the Vitamix. You need a blender. If you do not have a Vitamix, just puree until it's as silky as possible. There's nothing worse than a cheesy sauce that's gritty.
No, can't have that.
Right, so just dump and pour. You're just going.
Everything's going in here.
Everything's going in there.
So let me you can hand me what's next, and
we're going to do some potato.
So is that about equal parts? And
It is. That was a really big potato, and nutritional yeast flakes. This is our cheese flavor, and it's our B12.
You want all this in there?
All of it. I want all of it.
That's about a half a cup there. And you'll have the exact recipe on your website?
We'll have it on my website. They can go right there and get it. This is for color, and it's also good for flavor.
Fire roasted red bell pepper.
Yes, and that is your cornstarch.
Cornstarch.
Or arrowroot powder, whichever you want to use.
Okay.
Onion powder.
Okay. Tablespoon of that.
Tablespoon of the onion powder. And let's see, Mark, we also want some lemon juice and salt.
How much you want in there?
You want to put about a tablespoon in there.
Okay.
Salt is your preference. Okay. So if you're on a low salt diet, add low salt. If you're on a no salt diet, no salt. If you like lots of salt, put in what you want.
Okay, you're gonna need some water in here too, so I'm gonna
Yes, you are.
Say when.
You have to. Should I just say when for you? No, you keep going. Now, if you were using nuts, keep going. I put your water to about right here.
Oh, okay.
If you were using nuts, Mark, you would want the least amount of water as possible because you want to puree those nuts. Well, we don't have, it's not as hard here.
Yeah, and you got the starch in there for a thickening agent anyway.
Yes, we do. And that's your lemon juice. Fresh is best. I use 1 lemon.
That's okay, whole lemon. Got it.
And it's gonna take a few minutes, but we're gonna blend this and get it all creamy.
You want it creamy?
Creamy.
Okay.
That looks good, Mark. See how creamy that looks?
Yeah, and you want it
And every blender is going to be different depending on the make, your blender, how the horsepower in it, but you want it that very creamy, silky consistency.
Tastes good. And the nice part about this too is, see, this is a thinner. This is thinner than my cheese sauce.
Well, we're going to thicken it.
I'm finishing it in my blender. So people that don't have that high-powered blender, I don't recommend doing my cheese sauce, but you could do this one.
You could. And the reason for this, and I might have to add a little bit more water in here as it cooks because that cornstarch or arrowroot powder is going to thicken up. And I always say add however much water you want to the thickness that you want your cheese sauce. You might want something really thick for a recipe, or you might want something thinner. Look how beautiful that is. Isn't that beautiful? Look at the color.
So we're gonna let that cook. 10 minutes maybe?
10 minutes maybe.
5-10 minutes?
Yes, and whenever you're using arrowroot powder or you're using cornstarch, stir consistently, continuously on the stove because it will go to the bottom and it'll scorch really easy.
So let's let that cook and we'll come back and
Sure.
and I'll grab some chips.
Chips? Awesome. All right, Mark, we've been stirring here now for about 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the temperature that you want it on the stove. So it's up to you. And the thickness. I added a little water to
I
this
saw that.
to make it the consistency I wanted. And this is just perfect. And I'm going to pour this.
Gave me just enough time to clean up and
Just enough time. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful?
velvety.
I could eat that. That looks like a bowl of cheddar cheese soup. Yummy.
Yes, it's actually velvety.
It is velvety. And I'm making a mess over here. That's okay. I can clean it.
I've got some homemade chips here. If you haven't seen our episode on homemade chips, we have that.
How's that taste? Do you miss the fat?
No.
That's the most important thing. Do you really miss the fat in the recipe? Because the nuts do give this really creamy consistency and that satiety of fat on the tongue. But I've noticed I use this in most every recipe: macaroni and cheese, my cheesy au gratin potatoes, my cheesy grit bake, homemade polenta bake in the morning. I do it for almost every cheese recipe that I make.
Wow, wow. I can see where people might want to tone down the red pepper. I like red pepper, so this
I do
fits
too.
me perfect. But you can probably do some adjustments. Every recipe is that way. You know, we try to give you just the basics and let you adjust from there. But once you got the concept, this is the concept that people need.
This is
because
it.
They can do a no fat.
No fat.
recipe.
They can do that, no fat. Now, if you didn't like red bell pepper or you had an allergy, my specialty is allergies. I do a lot of cooking for allergies. I would use carrot.
That's what I do.
I use carrot, tomato. Tomato's another thing. So you just want to use something to give it the color, the appearance of cheese.
Right.
So anything that would be in that color that would be for your diet, whatever your diet consists of, then you could use that. I like the fire roasted bell pepper the best.
Perfect. And we are going to have a couple more recipes that we're actually using this particular item for. So you'll be able to reference on this one anytime on our websites or on the YouTube channels. So.
Yes, and my website is melodyprettyman.com. My email is melodyprettyman@gmail.com if you want to ever email me with any questions, or go to my website for free recipes and information.
All right. So that's it for this episode, and we will see you next time in the kitchen. All right, today we're talking about eliminating those dairy products and particularly the milk and the cheese and things like that. We've got a lot of information to go over here, and I wanted to share with you a really, really good book here. This is called Move Over Milk. Probably one of the better books that I've seen out there, and it's just a quick read book. This book here, let me share this with you real quick. This book, it actually took a little time to figure out who the author was. What a humble lady she is. Vicki Griffin, fabulous lady. Her and her husband, I think it was Dane Griffin, PhD. They actually wrote the book, Move Over. I think I got it for like $8 or $9 on Amazon. And pretty amazing here. Let me share with you real quick things. Forwards from Charles Atwood and T. Colin Campbell, which is the China study. Ooh, the back has information from Dr. Neil Bernard, and the list goes on and on. There's Richard Hubbard and John Westerdahl, and hope I pronounced that right. Some really good forward information here. Here's some quotes, introductions from Dr. McDougall, who's one of the best in the world by far. Frank Oski, and the list goes on and on. I mean, this is just a fabulous, fabulous book with so much depth of knowledge. Talks about how milk is one of the causes of osteoporosis and diabetes and cancer and heart diseases and allergies, and the list goes on and on and on. And it's a nice, easy to read, simple, and it's even got some recipes in the back for cheese and cream whip and things like that. So definitely one of my recommendations for this book, Move Over Milk. So I took some of the stuff out of here and started doing some stuff on the internet for you and wanted to show you some of the depth of knowledge. And you know what I do. I love to show you the depth of knowledge and really learn what's going on out there. And we're going to head right over to the first website here, which is called Dairy Moos. And this one, of course, moose-worthy information from a real dairy farm. Third generation. Now, first of all, anytime I see something that is from a dairy farm or from somebody in the industry, it's already taken a bias side that could possibly be doing some propaganda and things like that. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt. There is no pus in milk, and so they're talking about pus being a common myth here, that there's no pus in milk. And what they're doing is they kind of detail it out a little bit here, and then they're just kind of saying that the pus is actually just white blood cells. And so there's blood in milk, not and flakes and clots and some things like that. And there's treatments and preventions. And here's a nice one. A cow enjoying her dry, comfortable bedding and showers every day. The cows, listen to this, the cows also have the luxury of taking a shower before every milking. This ensures that the cow is nice and clean before every milking. A clean udder means less chance of bacteria getting in the cow's udder. So I didn't know. I had no idea that the cows took a shower every single time before they got milked. Good thing to know. And so anyway, that's that website. And yes, I got to show you the reality, the fun side of life as we bring it to you with the whole message. So wanted to do some more homework about pus. This right here is from the website Not Milk, Robert Cohen. And he's done a little bit of, quite a bit of studies, as we'll see. But every state has an average pus per count. You want to call it white blood cells or whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. And, you can change names. A lot of people do that in industry. Let's just change the name. It'll sound a lot better. So anyway, and you'll want to go to this site if you want, notmilk.com. And it's got tons and tons of information all about the allowances of so much cell counts. And we're talking somatic cell counts, okay? And which is the particles of the body, basically, that is not milk. And they're allowed 200,000 cell counts per quart of milk, I think was the actual specifics on this liter, per milliliter. So the interesting part, this is actually in a couple of the issues of Dairy Man, and you could actually go to the USDA websites and find all this information until the last couple of years. Now you go through it and you just can't find it. And I'm wondering why they're hiding this information or who paid who what or how this works. But you can do homework all you want and you will no longer find figures on what each particular state's limits are. And but here's the actual limits, and this is from 2002, I think, the actual limits. And 200,000 is the legal limit. Kentucky's at 413, over twice the legal limit. Even Michigan, 287. Missouri, Montana. Missouri's at 437, over twice the legal limit. Oklahoma, over twice the legal limit at 483,000 stomatic cell counts of blood and pus in the milk, and things like that. So that's Robert Cohen, author of Milk A to Z. And so It's kind of interesting, though. There are actual regulations that the government requires, and that's how you call it an A grade or a B grade, or sometimes if it doesn't make the grade, then it gets put into the cheese and chocolate milks and things like that. And and anything I'm talking about here when it comes to milk and cheese, if it's a problem with milk, it's going to be 5 times the problem with cheese, because whatever is in that milk, it is really 5 times concentrated in cheese. And one thing I want to point out real quick to you here is that you ever notice how the most addictive substances out there are the worst ones for you? I mean, once in a while you find somebody addicted to grapes, or like me, I'm addicted to my salads and I love oatmeal. But for the most part, the most unhealthy foods are the most addictive. And you ever notice how cheese is far more addictive than milk? Well, it's a higher concentration. See, that's kind of the way things work there. So anyway, let's cut right over to the proandcon.org. I love this kind of site. This is pretty cool. Proandcon.org. Is there pus in milk? Now you got the PETA people over here. Here's the pros and here's the cons. I love it. PETA people have, for the ethical treatment, they got an article called Got Pus. And so they talk about all the pus, and they're talking about the stomatic cell counts and, exactly the way it's pretty much referred as I've known it. And of course, then the con, the National Dairy Council, says there's no pus in milk. All milk, including human breast milk, naturally contains stomatic white cells, which are critical in fighting infections and ensuring good health. So there's some elements about this, and these are in the con section here, pros and cons. So another criticism about the PETA going to the extreme and blowing things out of proportion. So they're talking about, no, there's no pus in it, call it a different name. Of course, the pros, here's another doctor here that talks about it, being pus. And here's another one right here, another MD surgeon talking about it being pus and how the USDA allows the milk to do this. And and here's another one from another medical doctor, that the chairman of the Cancer Prevention Coalition. So, and my point is, whether you call it pus or call it stomatic cell counts or whatever you want to call it, to me, it's not a big issue. I'm not a big PETA fan, supporter. That's not why I want you to get healthy. Okay, now if the reason that you don't want to eat animals is because, you've got this care for furry little animals, hey, that's great. But my whole purpose is beyond that. My whole concern for you not eating animals is for your health, for you to become a healthier person. This is the importance, so you can get that animal fat and cholesterol off your blood cells. Hey, the fact that you're not eating animals, bonus, amen to that. So, but, the bottom line is I'm concerned about your health, and that's the biggest issue for me. Anyway, whichever way you want to call it, here's a great website. I love this one. This is the one that people have been trying to shut down, and it's called Not Milk. And I love showing you where I'm going. Now, check out this website, Not Milk, because this is probably one of the most in-depth research websites that you're ever going to find on milk. And as you look here, articles from A to Z, and you can go through every one of these. Let's just go to allergies. And boom, here comes the allergy information. And here's study after study after study after study after study all about allergies. And so it just pops right up there. And breast cancer, you can go to breast cancer, and you're going to get study after study after study with resources and volumes and pages and very specific things that you're going to have. It's just amazing the knowledge that is on this website. And that's just the A's, the B's, C's. It's all in alphabetical order. Even Ellen White has a good advice here. The Clueless, so, I mean, it's got lots and lots look at how much information is on here. It's just amazing. And so that's the website, Not Milk. And then you can look at, everything you could ever imagine, tuberculosis, sudden infant death. The list goes on and on and on. So what a depth of resource knowledge is what this one is. So, and then this one's pretty interesting too on here. Rense, RENSE.com, The Truth About Milk. And this person, David, did a lot of homework too, because I mean this, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but it might be a good website for you to study out the rankings of the diseases in the country, cancer, fuel, and you got to check this out. Okay, this is really important right here. Right here, cancer, fuel. Of those 59 hormones, one is a powerful growth hormone called insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1. And you've heard me talk about this before, and we're going to talk about it again and again and again. IGF-1. And by a freak of nature, it is identical in cows and humans. Consider this hormone to be a fuel cell for any cancer. And IGF-1 goes up, cancers go up. It's just that way. And you'll get it in different foods. I mean, you can get it in lots of different ways. Manufacturing actually increases IGF-1. You can have soybeans, which have no IGF-1 in them, but when you manufacture them into a soy protein isolate, then you're ending up creating a higher IGF-1 factor. So, and animal products are huge at fueling this IGF-1 factor in your body. So he's got this all down to a science. Talks about Monsanto and the pesticides, the RBGH, and other growth hormones that they use. And there's a lot of growth hormones that they use out there on the farm animals. And the list goes on. It talks about fats and calcium, and so pretty good information. Proteins, the wholesome protein myth, bacteria, I mean, the pus, of course, cholesterol, which is one of the biggest issues that I'm not going to let you get away with not hearing a lot about that. Diabetes, Crohn's disease, mad cow disease, cumulative effects, population, and I didn't really see. Oh, there is a lot of sources too. But not quite as linking sources as we saw on the other website. But that's Rense.com. And so let me share with you a couple real things here about the dangers of drinking cow's milk. And this is from the Global Health Center, and I'll just go through these very quickly. Ingredients added to cow's milk. There's a hormone cocktail because you're getting so many different things in your cow's milk, and that's one of the biggest things. And the growth hormones. Some of these cows get more estrogen than in 1 year than women produce in an entire lifetime. And then you wonder why our kids are so messed up and they look like they're 20 when they're only 12 years old and things like this, especially with the girls. And, we are just literally poisoning them. It makes the cows produce more milk, and that's the whole issue. But it also makes our children grow faster than they should be as well and not living as long. So, and of course, the pus and the blood cells and the antibiotics that they use, it's just a real challenge. But when we come back, we've got some cooking shows to share with you. And then when we come back, we're going to go to the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. I've been kind of showing you the good and the bad that's out there and some of this fluffy stuff. But when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the real physicians who really know what's going on out there with this whole milk situation. So stay tuned. Hi, Mark Anthony here to show you another fantastic recipe that you're absolutely going to love. This is one of my favorite recipes of all time, and I'm telling you why, because it is a cheese sauce made out of potatoes and carrots. And when you make this for your guests, they will never ever know that it's all vegan. And I've done this for many years all around the country, by the way. This is one of my signature ones that I teach around the country. And what I have here is potatoes and carrots. I did peel these potatoes and carrots because I just want to give you that visual appeal. Normally when I'm at home, I do not peel the potatoes and the carrots because I still want that nutrients that are coming from the skins. But just to let you know, we've got boiled potatoes and carrots. And let me show you, I am not even gonna measure anything. This is gonna be so easy. What you need to know when you're making this is that the majority has to be in potatoes. In fact, I can do this whole thing. I'm gonna do it all in one shot here. It's gonna take an extra minute, but since I've got enough here, yeah, the majority has to be in potatoes because the potatoes is your starch. That is your thickening agent to give it a thickness. But potatoes and carrots, and I'm gonna share with you a couple more items that I put in here. No measurements, onion, some garlic, and let me just set these over here. Onion, garlic, nutritional yeast flakes. Now the nutritional yeast flakes, that's a derivative of molasses. It's a really good item. And then McKay's chicken style seasoning. And you can really use any type of chicken style seasoning. There's paste that you can get at Whole Foods, things like that. It really doesn't matter. You can use a number of different ones. And then I'm also gonna add a little bit of juice. This is the potato water, and you'll see how high I'm going up on it. This is the way I measure it, because I want it to get right up to about here. And so we're gonna get a little bit more, a little bit more. Okay, right about there. And just like that, there's our ingredient list. You can put a little bit of olive oil in there if you want. That will actually give it a glistening effect. It really makes it look like cheese. And you can also do some lemon in there if you want. You can do a squeeze of lemon in there. Gives a little longer shelf life, things like that. But since my wife likes it like this is the way I'm making it today. And we're gonna get this baby blending. It takes about 2 minutes and then it'll be done. So we'll start on low and then get it volumized from there. Okay, just like that, and check this out. You have got a velvety cheese sauce that is just gonna blow people away. And woo boy, let me tell you, this is so fantastic. Look at this. Nobody would ever know the difference. One thing about this cheese, the less water you put in, the thicker it's gonna get. It also thickens up a little bit when you're gonna refrigerate it and reheat it. Nice part about this is you can refrigerate it. You can put it in the refrigerator, bring it out the next day or the next week even, and it will turn right back into cheese. Even in the freezer, if you put it in the freezer and pull it out, because we'll make big batches. When we pull it out, we put it in the fridge, and then when we recook it, we just have to take a wire whip and it whips right back into cheese. Fantastic for using it for queso dips. You can add salsas to it, green chilies, macaroni and cheese. You can just take cooked macaroni, mix it together, boom, it's done. Now if you're gonna bake with it, you've gotta look at a couple elements because you don't want the moisture being sucked out of this. So for baking things, you wanna cook it at a hotter temperature, faster, shallower pans, things like that. So you got a couple tweaks there. But for other things too, let me tell you, to do broccoli cheese soup. Just take your broccoli and vegetables, cook them off, you know, with the least amount of water, add some cheese sauce to it, boom, you got broccoli cheese, potato cheddar. I mean, the list goes on and on. This is gonna be one of the recipes that you are gonna have all the time. And for chips, look at that. Man, that is just plain and simple, amazing cooking. We did this at my sister's for a whole football team, and they never knew that it was vegan. So try it. Once you do it 2 or 3 times, that was so good. Once you do it a couple times, you're not even gonna need a recipe. If you do, the recipe's on my website. You can just go down there and copy an exact recipe. But after you do it once or twice, you're just gonna be able to eyeball it. And you've got your onion, your garlic, your nutritional yeast flakes, McKay's chicken style seasoning, boom, 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 and it's done. So I knew you were gonna love this, and we'll see you next time in the kitchen. All right, we're back and we're looking at the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine here. And I love this website. It's one of my favorite ones. This is out of Washington, D.C., Physicians Committee. And I'm telling you what, they have one source after another after another. And here's the thing I wanted to point out about this. Here's the question asked the experts. Do dairy products cause cancer? And if you don't drink milk, how do you get all the calcium you need? Recent scientific studies have suggested that dairy products may be linked to the increase for prostate cancer, testicular cancer, and possibly for ovarian and breast cancers. Prostate cancer has been linked to dairy products in several studies. Harvard Physicians Study Health included more than 20,000 male physicians. Those who consume more than 2 servings a day had a 34% higher risk of developing prostate cancer than the men who consumed little or no dairy products. And there's study after study after study showing all of this. And calcium too. You know, there's a lot of people that think we need all this calcium, but the body needs calcium. High levels of calcium result in lowering of blood levels of activated vitamin D. So you're kind of, you take one and it's hurting the other. And so we're having problems with that. And you don't need all this calcium. And in fact, calcium is one of the causes of osteoporosis too. And there's study. And here's the funny part. You'll hear these commercials on the television for, I think it was Boniva or one of those osteoporosis for getting healthy bones and stuff. And right at the end it says, make sure you drink lots of milk and eat lots of cheese. And here, milk and cheese are one of the causes of osteoporosis. So here this company is telling you to consume something that causes the disease that they're selling you the drug for. You know, and people are listening to this saying, oh, well, I better go drink lots of milk and cheese. And you're actually consuming something that is causing that disease. And, it's just amazing. This is what goes on out there. This world is so upside down, and people are just so blinded by this massive amount of deception that's going on in the world that people don't know what to think. And that's why I kind of go through a little more detail than a lot of people do. And I go through this stuff quick. I should take my time, and as time goes on, you'll see a lot more detail about it. But Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, fantastic website. Nutrition MD, another good website. Understanding the problems with dairy products. And osteoporosis. Once again, milk is one of the causes of osteoporosis. Cardiovascular disease. And the list goes on and on and on. Cancers. Milk is one of the causes of cancer. Diabetes, which is kind of interesting here, that it is not really a cause of diabetes like I've seen a few people try to project, but you want to eliminate or reverse type 2 diabetes. You get off the milk, and that's a huge, significant help. I'm not sure how their research is here, but lactose intolerant, vitamin D toxicity, contaminants down here. We've got contaminants in the milk, and health concerns for the infants and children, and lots of references you can go to. So one of the things I'd like to point out real quick, though, is that there's a lot of information coming out that really, without a doubt, shows how harmful milk is. And I always tell people that is the worst of anything. You know, if you're going to do one thing, get off the milk and cheese, and you're going to feel so much better. And it takes a little while to reacclimate, but here's from the LA Times. Does milk do a body good? Maybe not. A new study suggests. And of course, there's study after study after study. I could go on for months and never be done showing you all the studies of how much harm there is in drinking milk. I mean, it is just that way. So it's out there big time. Natural news. Milk and dairy products cause heart disease, diabetes, and osteoporosis. And I'm telling you, I'm almost getting tired of looking at all this. So let's look at some solutions here, okay? let's look at some solutions, because what are the nutrients that you're supposed to be getting out of milk and cheese? Calcium and vitamin D. That's your two winners right there, calcium and vitamin D. The interesting part is that when you make milk, you're actually burning out all the nutrients. So they have to refortify it with calcium and vitamin D. So even the calcium and vitamin D that you're getting out of the milk is not actually from the milk itself. And which also gives me the point about the pus. That's being burned out too. It's not a big issue to me about blood and pus, when it's all going to be incinerated and, purified and pasteurized. And so, but yeah, all this milk is actually fortified. So it's not really natural vitamin D and calcium like you would think that you're going to get. But best ways to get more calcium from your diet. Look at this. We've got spinach, kale, okra, collards, soybeans, white beans, and of course some fish and sardines. And so there's lots of other ways to get vitamin D or calcium. Actually, that was calcium and vitamin D right there. Boom. That's why that's there. Nutritional facts. Let me share this with you real quick here. This is for a cup of milk. Let me see where I'm at here just to tell you. Nutrition data. I go there quite a bit. Nutrition data to get my nutritional information on anything. So a cup of milk got 122 calories, 43 calories from fat. And so your calcium, 29%. So it's got the calcium in there, that's for sure. 12 grams of sugars even. So that's your nutritional, and that's 2%. So, and let's head right over here to the vegetables. Now this is actually from the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. And let's look at the calcium in vegetables. Broccoli, 62 milligrams. Brussels sprouts, 56. Butternut squash, 84. Collards, 266, way more than milk. And you can go over to the beans and the legumes, and northern beans at 120, navy beans 126, soybeans 175. In fact, a cup of soy milk is at 368. You're pushing double what the milk has as far as calcium goes. So when people are like, well, where am I going to get my calcium? There you go, vegetables. That's where you're going to get your calcium. And it's the same situation with vitamin D. You can go everywhere, and people are like, where am I going to get my vitamin D? And you will get it everywhere. You do not need animal products to get vitamin D or calcium. And I've told people too, I said, how come the three nutrients that you get out of animal products, which is protein, vitamin D, and calcium, how come we have the highest deficiencies of those three items? When we have the highest consumption of those three items in the history of the planet. When we're eating such massive amounts of animal products, we should have plenty of protein, calcium, and vitamin D. And my thoughts is we have too much protein, calcium, and vitamin D in our bodies, way too much. And all those truths are coming out as well. I got one more thing to share with you, which is Dr. McDougall's, but we're going to take one more break for another cooking segment, and then we'll come right back to show you this. Hi, Mark Anthony here to show you my recipe. It's a vegan garden herb cheese spread. And my brain was kind of thinking, when I do my hard cheeses, how can I do something that's a little softer, a little spreadable? And so what I'm doing here is I've got my 4 cups of water here, and I'm only using 1 tablespoon of the agar powder. And we're going to let this boil for about 2 minutes. If you've done some of my other cheeses, you know how I'll have like 4 times the amount of agar powder. In fact, a lot of my recipes, you notice I don't have any measurements at all. And but this one in particular, some of these, when you've got to have the exact measurements of agar to water ratios in order to get it to the right consistency you want, then I will do that. So we're going to let this boil for a couple minutes. And if you don't know about the agar powder, this is the kind I get, and get a pound at a time, and saves you a lot of money that way. So we'll get this thing boiling and be ready to go. And you know, I like doing the vegan cheeses because they don't have all that animal fat and cholesterol, which is the #1 killer on the planet for the most part. You know, that's one of the causes of all the heart disease and high blood pressure and cancers and diabetes. And I mean, the list goes on and on with the problems with animal products. So that's kind of why I do all vegan, plant strong. And so this is looking pretty good. All right, looks like it's doing pretty good here. So we're gonna pour this right into our Vitamix. Any high-powered blender will do. I'm doing a double batch here too, by the way, and right at the end of this segment, I will share with you a single batch recipe, so you'll actually have the batch. Now I do need some chopped garlic, so I've got about 8 cloves of chopped garlic here. And the easy way to chop garlic, for what I'm doing, I'm just gonna do it right like this. Don't hurt yourself on this one. And make sure I get my recipe here. Okay. Oh, you're already smelling it. So there's the chopped garlic. Now cashew-wise, I'm adding 2 cups of cashews here. Half a batch, or 1 batch would have been 1. Lemon, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice. Nutritional yeast flakes, I've got 2 tablespoons of those. I've got some salt here, and I've got some couple teaspoons of onion powder, teaspoon of garlic, and then some mustard, some dry mustard. And the dry mustard, I'm only hitting that with about a teaspoon for this one. So we're gonna give this a blend, and then after it's blended for a little while, then I'm gonna put the herbs in here. And I've got some green chilies, some cilantro, and some basil. So that's what's gonna go in here about halfway through the process. Okay, so we'll just chop all this up and put it right in there. And this is one that you don't really need to be all perfect about. You just get those babies in there and it's good to go. Now I start this Vitamix on low, work up from there. Okay, just like that, and you've got your garden herb cheese spread. Now it sure does not look like cheese spread right now, does it? But tomorrow, after I put this in the fridge overnight, I'll pull it back out and show you what it looks like. And so I'm gonna put this in the cooler like this, and then just after it cools down enough, I'm gonna put this baby down there and actually press it down because I don't want condensation in here for one, so you gotta let it cool down. And then I don't want a scummy coating on the top, so you wanna make sure that the plastic is actually in contact with the cheese. So we'll get this in the fridge and we'll pull it out in the morning and see how it turned out. Okay, now this has been in the fridge overnight, and you can see where I put the plastic down in here. This is what I'm talking about, is putting the plastic where it's in contact with the food, because that way you're not getting that air in here. And once you get air, you can create moisture, bacteria, so things go bad faster in the fridge. So I always like to press it down. I do that with a lot of different products, you're gonna notice. But here we go. This is our garden herb cheese spread, and just as I suspected, it's a little bit on the thick side, which is okay. In fact, I'm gonna just share with you what I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna put it in this pan just because it's a little bit bigger. And we're just gonna add some water to this. And it might not take a lot. So this is one of those things that, you know, sometimes I don't have to do this, other times I do. So you just never know the thickness or thinness of the consistency when it comes to the blending and all the ingredients. You might have a few extra cashews in there or something that would make it not work the way you want it to. So this is all we're going to do is just give this baby a whip. So all you got to do is just keep whipping this up until you've got a smooth consistency. And you can probably put it back in the blender too, even easier. But that's it. That's all you got to do. And you're going to have, this would be a pourable, dippable type of cheese spread that you could use in a lot of different applications. And I think I'll put it right back in this container because that works for me. And so just like that. And it's just another alternative. Instead of having those unhealthy store-bought cheese spreads and dips, boom, there you go. And of course this will work perfect for chips and dips and everything you could possibly imagine. So anyway, that easy. What you do is you take your water, add your agar, let it boil for a couple minutes. You determine how much agar you need after you've done this a few times. And then you put it in the blender and add your ingredients, your cashews and everything. Give it a blend, put it in the fridge, bring it back out, and there you go. You got a wonderful dip that's cost-effective, healthy. It's a water base rather than an oil base, and your family will love this one. So go ahead and share these recipes and send off these videos that we do to all your friends and family, and we will see you next time in the kitchen. All right, we're back, and I wanted to share with you Dr. McDougall's newsletter from March 2015. And this is a new newsletter, talks about vitamin D and how harmful it is to the body. And so you got to get his newsletters. He's one of the top 5, health people in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Vitamin D supplements are harmful. Sunshine and food determine health. Worries over vitamin D, once known as the sunshine vitamin, have turned hundreds of millions of people into patients with worse, not better health. And this is what's happening out there. People are just being gravitated. Oh, we got to have vitamin D. We got to have vitamin D. Doctors all over the world are saying, oh, you got to get more vitamin D, and it's not the case. This is all propaganda designed by, the dairy industry for most part. And just, do some homework on this. Our findings suggest that vitamin D supplementation with or without calcium does not reduce skeletal or skeletal outcomes in unselected communities, dwellings, individuals by more than 15%. Further trials will have the same conclusions. And there are studies on this as well. And over here on the side, he says there is no level of vitamin D discovered by a blood test that would cause me as a medical doctor to prescribe vitamin D supplements to one of my patients. And this is you just got to go to this. It's 2 large randomized controlled trials have shown an increased risk of fractures with annual high doses of vitamin D supplements. So you're actually, the more vitamin D you take, the higher your risk of fractures. People are just gravitated, got to have that vitamin D, and I want one more thing I want to share with you, because I know we're running out of time, and we're going to go over this vitamin D thing extremely heavy. I'll probably do an entire show on it. But right now we're just doing our 12-part series that talks about eliminating the milk and dairy products out of your diet. So, but I thought I'd share this one with you. Let me shrink this down just a little bit for you so you can see get the whole picture on this. This is geographic distribution of chronic diseases. Okay, heart disease, diabetes, MS. It's very common in the northern and southern areas of the world, but very rare around the equator. So, geographic distribution of sunlight. It's very low in the top and the bottom of the world and very high in the center of the world. So here comes the conclusion. Oh, you got to have more vitamin D. You got to have more vitamin D. Okay, I get it. I understand how you can come to that conclusion, but here's the geographic distribution of foods. The northern and southern parts of the world is your majority of animal products, while the entire center around the equator is the majority of plant distribution in the world. So they're also eating a lot more plants around the equator. So between those couple elements, you know, they're getting their vitamin D naturally, not from a pill, and they're eating more plants. You know, and that's what we need to do. We need to eat more plants, fruits and vegetables, plant strong, get off these animal products and live a healthier, more vibrant life.
Hi, Melody Prettyman here with the whole message, bringing you your health tip for today. Hey, I'm going to talk to you today about the potato. I love the potato, and you know why? I'm Irish, so it's one of my favorite vegetables. And you know what else? This large potato is less than 258 calories, no fat, loaded with potassium, vitamin A, vitamin C, fiber, and even protein. Did you know that a pound of potatoes is only 318 calories? It's a superfood, isn't it? You can bake it, you can mash it, you can boil it. Potato salad, I eat anything I can when it comes to potatoes. And when you eat yours, just remember, you're one bite away from good health.
Hey, just wanted to share with you my newest cookbook. This is the kind of book that will really be a blessing to your library at home. And I took a lot of care making this cookbook. In fact, I do autograph them. I always try to do that. One thing I did with the quality of this book was make it a hardcover. It's over 400 pages, over 250 recipes, plus I put a stitched binding on it so it will stay open on the kitchen table. This is one thing you want to look for, is those good stitched bindings that will stay open and they're not going to mess up over time. And this book is filled with so many great recipes and concepts, because it'll actually give you the concept how to make hummus. And then here's recipe, 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 recipe. The concept, how to make bruschetta. And then recipe, 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 recipe. So it's one of those things that just makes it so much easier to learn how to function in the kitchen. And that's really what I want to do, is I want to teach people the basics. I want to teach people how to do things easier in the kitchen, to make your life easier. And more importantly than that, I want to get you healthy. And in this book, there's actually some areas in the front here, let me share this with you, that have 12 different concepts on things that you need to do to get healthy. And one of them is go vegan, of course. Here's one about reducing oil and a whole bunch of information about that. And biggest meal for breakfast, I talk about that. Plenty of water, which is what I'm doing right now, trying to get plenty of water. Rest, so there's some really good concepts in the front. Plus, I also share some of my station simplicity, how to design your oatmeal station, how to design your refrigerator into a salad bar. So this is a real powerful education tool to teach you how to function in the kitchen so much better. And these run $50, and shipping's included. We're not even charging for shipping or anything. And it is such a fantastic book. It's available on my website, or you can just call the number on the screen. And we should usually ship out within a day or two. So it's just one of those books that helps support our ministry. And of course, you can always call the number on the screen, even if you just want to contribute to our ministry, because let me tell you, this is one of those ministries, we don't have a bunch of sponsors. You're not watching 35 commercials in order to get one recipe. And we sustain ourselves basically on your contributions and a couple of the books that I have available. I have another one too here, Vegan Simplicity. We've got a part 2 to this one coming out real soon. And this one too has not as many pictures, but it's packed with recipes. This one's just packed with recipes, and that one's half the price. So just wanted to share those with you. Both fantastic books. My website, chefmarkanthony.com, or call the number on the screen, and we will get those right out to you. So enjoy the rest of the program, and we'll see you later on. All right. I told you it was going to be a fun one. A lot of times I get into a lot of depth about things, but this is what we need in order to learn the whole message. You know, we got to stay away from these fragments, these bits and pieces, especially like on Facebook. Man, you get so bombarded with fragments, and most of it's not even true. So that's why I love to share with you the whole message. And so take these messages to heart and pray about them. One of my biggest things is to pray for discernment. When you have discernment, that's where you get godly wisdom and godly knowledge. It's like using God's eyes and God's heart and God's mind instead of your own. And when you have discernment, real godly discernment, you're going to see through all these deceptions that Satan is putting out there in front of us. And so keep watching, because we got a lot more deep wake-up calls to what's going on in the world today. So we'll see you next time in the kitchen.